It's time to cook with Susan Beck. Well, today we're going to make Toffee Almond Sandies. This is a taste of home recipe with a few changes by me, of course. I'm always changing it up a little bit. My daughter actually found this recipe several years ago and we love it. So anytime there are toffee bits in the house, that's what we usually make. So Toffee Almond Sandies. We're going to make those with butter today, and I do recommend, sometimes I tell you in recipes it doesn't matter if you swap out the butter for the margarine, but anytime you're making a good cookie, this is going to have like a sugar cookie type of texture to it, I really recommend sticking with the butter. We need a cup of butter, which is 2 sticks. We will be using also a cup of oil, and those fats will get mixed with our sugars. And today's recipe is kind of unique because we're using both a cup of granulated white sugar and that white powdered sugar, 1 cup each. So when mixing cookies, we want to mix our fats and our sugars together first. Then come your eggs and your flavorings. We're going to use 2 eggs today. Now this is one of my changes. The recipe calls for almond extract. My family, anytime we put in something a little different, doesn't really like it so much. So I'm just going to stick with the traditional vanilla that goes into many cookies. You can choose a teaspoon of almond extract or a teaspoon of vanilla. Okay, that's round 2 of the mixing, and the third round is the dry ingredients, which will include our cream of tartar, a common spice from your cupboard, which is often used in a sugar cookie base, 4.5 cups of flour, and a teaspoon each of salt and baking soda. Then round 4 is when we put our mix-ins in. So we're going to use an entire package of these Heath English toffee bits. This is an 8-ounce package, so we will be using all of them. And another place I'm going to change it up a little bit is that the recipe calls for almonds, and it calls for 2 cups, and I think that's plenty. I'm going to go with just a tiny bit over a cup is looks like what I'll have here. So let's go ahead and finish chopping the nuts. I got about 3/4 of a cup already done. This is going to be close to 1/4 of a cup, and I'm just using this Cuisinart nut chopper that has a blade that pops out and a little container on the bottom with the nuts. I just put that on there nicely. It's kind of noisy, but it does the job quite well. Now I usually find that if I kind of twist it and put it on in a different direction, it kind of finishes chopping the nuts a little bit better. This is just a nice quick tool. Saves like getting out a food processor or trying to chop these by hand with a knife where they're going flying. Everything's just contained nicely in the bottom of my cup. So I probably have, like I said, 1.25 cups here, maybe 1.5 cups. I don't think 2 cups are really needed, and nuts are getting expensive along with everything else at the grocery store, so I don't think you'll miss it if you cut back slightly. Okay, set my nut chopper off to the side, and let's get mixing. So, as I said, fats go in with sugars, and we cream those all together. So in go my 2 sticks of butter. Now that is slightly softened so that, well, as you can see, it'll stick to my spatula here. Now there's a difference. We definitely don't want that to be melted. We just want the butter to soften. If it's melted, then it completely changes the texture of these cookies. All right, 1 cup of cooking oil. Mine happens today to be vegetable oil. I would say vegetable or canola would both be a good choice. Olive oil has a little different taste, so I would not recommend olive oil. Then the cup of white sugar, white granulated sugar, and 1 cup of powdered sugar. All right, those ingredients are all in. I'm gonna use our paddle attachment that I already have on there, and we'll just start this off slow so that sugar, especially that powdered sugar, doesn't give me a big poof of a sugar cloud. And then we'll turn it up a little bit. And I want to cream that until everything is whipped together. We're going to just beat that till it's nice and fluffy. This batter is a little thinner than a lot of cookie batters just because you've got both the butter and the oil in there, and that oil just really kind of thins it down a little bit more. All right, next I said we would be adding our flavorings, which again, I'm going to use the vanilla. Don't pour over the bowl in case you get too much. I'm going to do a teaspoon of vanilla, and I'm going to put in 2 eggs. And as I always recommend when I'm doing my baking is don't break your eggs right into here, because you have to hunt for those shells, or sometimes you don't even know you lost the shell in there. So just a quick tap on the countertop. In goes egg number 1. Get that mixing, and do egg number 2. We want that egg well mixed. I'm just going to run a spatula along the sides, making sure all the butter and eggs are all down in. We'll do that again each time around. All right, let's put the lid on that so I don't spill, and we're on to our baking soda, 1 teaspoon, followed by our 1 teaspoon of salt. And then that cream of tartar, and it's got the word tartar in it. It just does add just like this little tartness. My jar is almost empty. A little bit of a tart flavor that I just know it just really enhances a sugar cookie. I would not skip the cream of tartar. The other dry ingredient we have is our flour. So we have to be a little cautious with our flour. I'm gonna just put part of it in and mix. Otherwise, you know, I guess it's not that big a deal, but you get flour all over the counter and you have more cleanup. So get that going a little bit. And I'm just going to slowly add the rest. This is 4½ cups of all-purpose flour. It's all coming together very nicely. I like to go ahead and remove it from my stand mixer at this point. And you know, mixing this with a wooden spoon or a hand mixer would be a perfect alternative. You don't have to own a big mixer. All right, let's get most of that off. And then I like to do my last step, which is the mix-ins. When I talk about mix-ins, I mean like your chocolate chips, your nuts, in this case, those toffee bits and almonds today. You know, if you're making monster cookie bars, you know, the M&Ms, anything like that, the coconut, I call all of that the mix-in. So here's my cup of almonds and my little bit more. So I got about, I'm gonna call it 1¼ cup of almonds today. I think that's plenty. And then I should have opened this before I started this video. All right, here we go. Toffee bits, all right? Look like little pieces of caramel, I guess. And if you ever had a Heath toffee bar, this is what's on the inside. All right, we are gonna use all the toffee bits though. And those will just melt inside these sugar cookie base and be oh so good. My daughter had been thinking about making these the other day, and she found a recipe in my recipe box that she thought was in, and it wasn't. So when I go to see her this weekend, I'm gonna surprise her with a bunch of these almond toffee sandies. Because I told her later, you know, remember, they're in that Taste of Home cookie cookbook. Oh, there's lots of good recipes in here, and just some unique different ones. It's nice to change it up. I mean, chocolate chip cookies are definitely the favorite in our house, but it's nice to have a different one once in a while, and nobody complains when I make Toffee Almond Sandies either. Now, something else this recipe did not mention is chilling it. But anytime I'm using butter, I really do like to chill my batter first. So I am going to put this into the refrigerator. I would say, 20 minutes would be an absolute minimum. 30 would be better. I'm probably gonna go ahead and put mine in there for an hour because we've got a supper going in the oven and it's just about ready to eat. So we'll eat supper, clean that up, and then we'll make our delicious cookies with toffee bits. Well, my dough is chilled and my oven is preheating to 350 degrees. And I'm ready to put the cookies on the cookie sheets. I just got this new product. I don't know if it's probably not new, but I just bought it for the first time. I always buy parchment paper in a roll, kind of like saran wrap and tin foil. But I saw these pre-cut parchment sheets, which are these perfect size for these cookie sheets. I'm going to use 2 of these here today. And now I still like to give these a light spray. With all that butter in there, they're probably going to come off just fine. And the parchment paper definitely helps, but I really like parchment paper on my cookie sheets. The cleanup is just so simple then. All right, I'm going to use a couple of the small spoons from my silverware drawer to create some drop cookies here today. They're called drop cookies just because you drop them right on. And they're ready to go. You can usually put 12 per sheet here. So remember, these have almonds and those little toffee bits inside. Moving on to the second sheet here. We'll put another dozen on. Now these are going to bake in the oven for 10 to 12 minutes, and I like to put the cooking racks in the center of the oven when I'm making cookies. So I'll finish filling this and put these right into my preheated oven. While the 2 pans of cookies are baking, I'm just going to put my dough back into the refrigerator until I'm ready to reload them. The cookies are ready to come out of the oven when they start to get a little brown around the edge. These look good. I like to let my cookies sit just for a couple minutes before I try to remove them from the tray with my spatula here. I also use brown paper bags a lot when making cookies. I just tear them open and get them so they'll lie flat, and they are a great absorber. You know, we have all that butter and oil in there, a great absorber of some of that excess grease as these sit. So I just tear them open, use the inside of the bag, have a nice clean bag here, and then just lift your cookies off and let them sit there to finish cooling. Well, I can never wait to try the cookies. So while we've got the second trays in the oven baking away, let's give these a try. They are just looking perfect. Now I did move a few away on the brown paper here so you can see how that brown paper bag kind of absorbs some of the excess grease. And we're bound to get that when we're cooking with all this oil and butter. Just a nice soft cookie. They smell delicious. The whole house smells delicious when you bake cookies. They're just really light and very buttery. I mean, that's my favorite part about it, is the butter. Those toffee bits, they melt and it gives just this little caramely taste to it as well. And then you get a slight crunch from those almonds.